Hello, everybody. Welcome to another daily dose of gaming news and all that good stuff. And as always, also published on Rumble and on Patreon for extra support. Any kind of news and such usually go about on Twitter X. And later today, we'll have Midnight Suns episode. Been having a blast with that game, doing a lot of stuff there. The story seems interesting, and the characters' interactions are quite funny and interesting also. And just to recap that I already have some complete gameplay series here on the main page of the channel. So let's go to the news. AMD is launching 7800M, which is basically the mobile GPU versions. I didn't know that they didn't have this SKU yet. They only had the 7900M and the mainstream, basically 76 and 7700M as variants. I think it's mainly because the particulars of this chip seems to be in line with basically PS5 Pro kind of thing, because it's 60 compute units, and even though it says again this is a 12 gigabyte VRAM. Again, it's basically not exactly the same thing as a PS5 Pro, but I think the chipset itself of the 6 compute units and the such might be kind of this variant might be something remaining of the yields they didn't pass the quality test for the PS5 Pro, I will assume, and they were keeping stock to have enough stock to launch this 7800M chip. Again, it's a little bit cut down in terms of TDP. Of course, it's a mobile chip, has less 4 gigabytes of VRAM. The memory is a little bit slower than the GPU thing there. But yeah, interestingly enough, it's a little bit faster than the 4070 in terms of the laptop, in terms of performance there, and of course, it's going to be less performance-wise on the 7900M. But yeah, interesting enough, coincidentally, after the PS5 Pro announcement, they announced that they're going to launch this GPU for the laptop stuff. Also has less Infinity Cache because it's spread around 3 MCDs instead of the 4 MCDs on the 7800 XT. Again, the 7800 XT has 4 MCDs, so multi-chip dies, if not mistaken, how this is pronounced here. Very interesting. Yeah, hopefully they can at least AMD, because of the strategy that we covered like a couple of days ago regarding scale wise in terms of their business practices. Hopefully they can start putting this on laptops. I think in terms of overall performance, they are pretty good on for the laptop um, kind of a thing there, because the 4090s and the 4080s in terms of laptop wise, I think they consume a lot of power, they hit a lot, and they are completely a very cut down GPU. I think even the 4090 laptop version is not even it's not even the same kind of chip that the 4090 is, like a cut down version of that. I think it's something for the 4080ish 4070 Ti kind of a thing there, but it's being rebranded as laptop version. At least that's my perception there. Here on the table, we only have the basically the AMD mobile variants. But yeah, interesting stuff. Again, around 180 watts of power, total GDP. I'm not sure what the G stands for. Gaming power. I'm not sure. But yeah, I think it will perform quite well overall. Hopefully, they will manage to sell units for this. Got all the specs here, but yeah, let's see how that goes. In terms of strategy, I'm curious to see how this strategy is going to pan out in terms of scale of the business. Hopefully, they can catch a little bit more market share on the GPU stuff, mainly because of the put Nvidia on its foot, and maybe we'll start getting a little bit more competitiveness in terms of price for the end consumer. But yeah, we'll have to see how that goes. In terms of gaming news, we got Capcom confirms Dogma 2 to get a new patch for all platforms. This again comes after the announcement of PS5 Pro enhanced patch. Um, I think the PlayStation Pro comes in November or something like that. Yeah, hopefully we'll get also for PC a little bit more performance upgrades here, given that from the recent patch they fixed a lot of stuff, but there are some areas again with many NPCs. The game can still be a lot of stuttering and the such. But they are addressing that in the next upcoming CPU load, and also try to reduce crashes and bring additional adjustments. Sorry, but then again, there is no news, official news regarding DLC, which is something that a lot of people are expecting. Hopefully, but yeah, I'm curious about playing this game because I think the game mechanics they are solid. I think the main complaints is a little bit here on the performance-wise side of things and enemy variants and quantity to a certain degree, and I think even the scaling of enemies or how you, as long as you go along with the game, the enemies turn too easy, from what I understand from the comments that I've been seeing around there. Hopefully, they can address also that and maintain a little bit of challenge while you go through the game. But yeah, hopefully, we'll get it this kind of patching sooner rather than later. Um, yeah, and again, people are still, I don't know, expecting that all these games will all start all of a sudden with this PS5 Pro going 4K 60 again. Some of them will be able to achieve that again through upscaling, through a lot of upscaling, and I think the upscaling is going to be very more on the performance side than the quality side, trying to get around 60 frames 4K. But yeah, people should not get fooled of thinking that when the PlayStation 5 Pro is going to come out, all of a sudden all the games that are going to get this kind of patch for this console upgrade, that they're going to all of a sudden play all games stellar 4K, 60 frames per second in all games. This is not going to happen for sure. And if you are able to play 4K 60, is going to be with a lot of upscaling in mind. I think that's what the patches are going to do there. In terms of reviews, we got from WCCF Tech review of Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown. Yeah, doesn't seem that good. 5 out of 10. I was very curious about this game, but then I started seeing a lot of videos, and yeah, my hopes were not that good after seeing a lot of videos that they presented there. And yeah, the reviews are coming out. There are some saving grace here, which is basically the driving physics, intense sense of speed, and races are well laid out, which to a certain degree, it's a little bit of the um, pillars of a good racing game. But yeah, the rest is not so good. Hong Kong is shockingly flavorless. Again, I think there's going to be a lot of buildings that quite the samey. Not much to enjoy on the Vista side of things from the cons here. That's my assumption. A lot of edit-head and always online requirement. Again, I think something like this usually it's never a good sign. Multiple server and cloud save issues. I read the comments here that they were playing for 2 hours. The no saving was done, and they just lost all the progress and they had to restart everything, which is not good. And the visuals by themselves are not that good as people might think. PS5 performance is shaky, so I will assume a lot of some stuttering, a lot of dips on the frame rates there, and not many cars, which is something that can be added, but it's not good to sell your game at least $60 with not many cars as a racing game. Yeah, I will have to wait for a little bit more reviews. But from the stills here, you can see that doesn't impress that much, especially even though it's not focused on. I think a little bit more effort here could have been done. Seems a little bit PS3, PS almost PS2 kind of quality here. Even the car details don't seem like, I don't know, lack something there. But yeah, as you can see, the blandness of the buildings here, not good. Yeah, I don't think this is going to be Very good selling game. You can see even here for it seems like just copy paste stuff here. It's very weird. But yeah, it's what we got here. Got this game. This comes from Gamescom footage, demo gameplay from The Eternal Life of Goldman. I'm not exactly sure when this game was first announced, but I've been following up a little bit here and there to see if there was any kind of updates regarding this game. And drawn, the the demo is like the very beginning of the game. Got basically all the tutorials of the base mechanics here. It's like a platformer with a little puzzle stuff there. Yeah, it seems pretty good. I really enjoyed this demo here. I'm very excited for this game. Already wishlisted. I will leave the Steam page link on the description below, along with all the links of the articles that I cover here. Yeah, very interesting. I like it very much. I want to see a little bit more. And I'm not. Where is the launch date? I don't see. I'm not sure if it is a launch date yet. Yeah, not yet. Release date not yet announced. But it seems to be in good hands. Everything seems well hand drawn. The animation, characters, even on the background, you got a lot of stuff happening in the background, but it's not that busy. You can understand what you need to do on the puzzling platform stuff or portion of the game. Yeah, and you got the cane, which has several upgrades that you can use to go about doing the puzzling stuff. Very interesting, and hopefully the story is pretty good and keeps up with at least the gameplay that I saw. If it is up there, I think it's going to be a very good experience. And then lastly, we're going to wrap up here. Hope I don't ramble too much. We got some. This was on Twitter. This former Sony executive, Chris Deering, said for laid off employees to drive an Uber or go to the beach. Again, it's not good by itself making this kind of statements, having not having this opinion, but making this kind of statements as a ex Sony executive, which usually has all the bonuses associated with them when they leave these companies here. But to a certain extent, I think these comments were made taking into account that the laid off persons had the severance packages associated with the layoffs there. I assume that's their train of thought. But again, because these people live in a completely different world from the normal people that develop and work on the games. In terms of how they go about it, I think they could have a better take on this. um, I don't know. Maybe say, okay, take advantage of the. He could put it a little bit more context on in his train of thought. At least I'm assuming that's his train of thought. I'm taking the most positive light that I can make out of these comments. Is okay. The fact that all the people that are being laid off with their own severance package can take a little bit time off and take a kind of small vacation and start working their way up to reaching the market again or something like that. Start working on independent projects, something like that. I think is more healthy in terms of discussion instead of just drive an Uber, go to the beach or something like that. I don't think it goes well, these kind of statements, but yeah, you cannot demand more from people that completely live in a different bubble that normal people do. Even though I have my own opinions regarding layoffs, again, a lot of it's yeah, this upper management stuff here. It's all about their bonuses at the end of the year. They really don't care about if the game is good or not. They just care about making money, early profits, quarterly earnings, and all that jazz. But yeah, these statements come from an interview that he did. Again, I'm covering this article because the podcast itself is not even a video. It's I think it's where it calls Spotify. It's a podcast on Spotify. At least the link that it gives me here. Um, yeah. Again, the question, or at least the topic surrounding this podcast, was from the Parkin, which is the podcast host. He said, "I'm sure you're aware it's been a tough year for workers in the gaming industry with around 20k layoffs in the last year or so. I think it's fair to say there's a bit of frustration with video game executives at Microsoft, Sony, wherever they are, who have been closing some smaller studios in order to funnel those resources into larger projects. it seems that that's sort of prioritizing shareholders over nourishing a creative, diverse medium. And he continues, I think you probably have more understanding than most of us about some of the pressures that those decision makers are under, but I suppose, how would you answer that accusation that some of these individuals are putting greed in front of creativity? Again, it's not an accusation, it's a kind of very known open secret to a certain extent. It's their function in the corporate structure. The decision makers is to take precedent on shareholders instead of the employees, because if they need to sacrifice the employees to get more money for the shareholders, again, that's their basic, to a certain point, their primary fiduciary responsibility to a certain degree, because that's how corporations work. um, Not excusing the the comments, but that's the understanding of how a company works when they have shareholders that they need to deliver the uh, return on investment that they do to a certain extent. But yeah. Um, and then this guy Deering responds, well, there are always going to be some greedy people and exploitive people, but there's a passion in the games industry that goes beyond just business and it's a way of life. And I don't think that the console people in particular are that greedy. Again, um, I don't know what he's saying here, but then he tried to deflect. But maybe Nintendo was in some ways, but still they had a great relationship with their end users. Again, trying to justify the greediness to a certain point, putting blame on another company instead of focusing on his own experience with Sony or PlayStation. And then he kind of also, to a certain degree, he has some reasons here because of what happened. Basically, the pandemic, basically, people were locked down, and to a certain extent, there was some, let's say, people got more money, or the money that they usually spent in other things, they start spending more on games and create kind of a little bit of a bubble there. The industry took off in a huge way and got oversaturated, and it's going through a deflectionary period, just like the consoles did when they were having those long turnaround time, minimum order quantities again. Um, yeah, what's basically what happened. And then he asserted it's painful. I don't think it's greed. Again, it's always greed in the sense that they want to make more money, but I assume it's always also lack of long-term planning, of medium-term planning on these guys, the CEOs and the CFOs and the head studio guys. Again, I don't think they're thinking too much beyond the project they are working on, because everybody knew to a certain extent that the pandemic and the lockdowns and the stay-at-home mandates were not going to be indefinitely done, so they didn't plan accordingly. But yeah, in the sense of trying to get more money out of the demanding of the market, they just again, it was an over exuberance, as he says, that was kindled and fueled by the knock-on effect of the pandemic, the splash chain restrictions that followed. I don't think it's fair to say that the resulting layoffs have been greed. Yes and no. It's almost kind of a case by case study to a certain extent, but it's not even greed by itself. It's making money, and to continue to make money, and the fact that there is always a pressure of increasing the profits from the previous quarter to the next quarter. To a certain extent, that's greed. Uh, Instead of thinking about in maintaining a company profitable, to a certain extent they can maintain the personnel to work on products that they want to launch. They just want to ramp up profits, so increasing profits to add infinitum usually doesn't work. It's just going to tear down your company, because it's impossible to have infinite growth in terms of quarterly earnings. And doesn't mean as long as a company stays on the profit margins, I think it's always a good thing if you take in account that the profits are revenue minus the expense of keeping everything functioning. But yeah, and he continued. I always try to minimize the speed with which we had at staff because I always knew there would be a cycle off, and I didn't want to end up having the same problems that Sony did with electronics. I don't know if it is his train of thoughts going a little bit over the place here. Yeah, after the shit is going down the toilet, everybody is a prophet now. After things happened, everybody knew. That's also a problem that we've been seeing. Everybody predicts the things after they happened. It's always a conversation that these guys have, even though we have the proof in the pudding that they didn't think this very well. This little time that we had, the 2 years that we have on ramping up demand on certain markets, they didn't think that well. They took advantage. They tried to extract the maximum money that they could, and now they are, to a certain extent, putting people off. Again, case by case scenarios. We got, for example, talking about Sony, we got they are putting out shitty products like Concord. Next is going to be another game. Uh, uh, it's a payday kind of clone game there. It's I think it's going to be also a shit show. We got PS5 Pro, it's not looking good for a lot of people, and that might tone down a little bit. The people want to continue with PlayStation there. Again, these guys just I don't know what they're thinking. You can only write off certain projects in your book accounts there, or account books to a certain extent. If you're taking if you're taking that much of this kind of I don't know, write-offs, you can only do that much until you open bankruptcy to a certain extent. But yeah, and he continues. I think it's probably very painful for the manager. Again, people trying to do this thing of we need to think about the manager and the pressure they are on. By the fact that they are managers, people tend to forget they earn more money, so they can go through that stress. It's called compensation for your work. And usually these guys have the biggest bonus when the project goes well. And when the project usually doesn't go well, and when they have to shut down stuff, they are the last ones to be fired. So I don't understand this empathy that people want to create for managers and CEOs. We have to think about Phil Spencer pressure on shutting down Tango Gameworks and Austin, Texas. Again, he was not the one that was fired. He will still get his annual bonuses at the end of the year. So I don't have any kind of sympathy or empathy for them, because they are the ones to blame for shutting down those studios. They were the ones that took that decision of acquiring, in this case, Activision Blizzard, and then after acquisition, they shut down everything without thinking, okay, this is going to cost us a lot of money to maintain. Might as well not invest this money now, or not acquiring these studios, because by the end we'll have to fire a lot of people. Again, even though if people are fired with the complete severance packages, again, I don't have any sympathy or empathy for this kind of positioning, managerial positions, because when things go wrong, they are the last ones to pay for the mistakes that they make. But yeah, but I don't think having skill in this area is going to be a lifetime of poverty and or limitation. To a certain point, he's got his reasoning to say so. If you are a very high skilled developer, you can have more possibilities of finding a position to work on a company there. But the fact that the industry is in a downturn, only the best ones will rise up to the occasion, which is something that happens in any kind of market in terms of a workplace. But yeah, it's still where the action is. It's like the pandemic, but now you're going to have to take a few, figure out how to get through it, drive an Uber or whatever, go off to the beach. I think it's the thing. Yeah, find a cheap place to live and go to the beach for a year. Again, this is the quotes that are making the news now. Again, I think again, I understand this train of thought is okay. You got fired, but you got your severance package. I don't know, equivalent of at least 1 or 2 years of salary, um, and now you can take like a mini vacations again. But people tend to forget these people. live paycheck to paycheck, and getting this kind of extra money for a severance package, usually people tend to think that this money will serve for me to pay a lot of debt that I already have. I don't know, from university, any kind of medical bills that it might have penned there, some credit card debts, because people need this kind of stuff. Again, pay a little bit more down payments on the house if they are on that situation. Again, a lot of stuff for this. When you have this kind of extra money coming around, you people, or at least normal people, tend to think about, okay, now I can take off a little bit that out of my shoulders, but now I'm without a work, so I need to take this money, try to live off of it until I find some work. Again, it's not like when you are a managerial or a CEO or everything, you have your own house, you have a holiday house somewhere, I don't know, some place here to go for vacation. Some of them have some boats here and there. They have everything paid for, and even if they get fired, they can stay like 5 years out of business without taking any work, and they will can live good enough without caring to get another job there. While lower paid position, usually that's not the case. But yeah, I don't. I understand kind of a train of thought there, but it's not applicable to the persons that is trying to tell to take a year off to find a cheap place to live and go to the beach for a year. Again, the this echo chamber of them, it's sometimes is like a comedy sketch to a certain degree. But yeah, he continues. But keep up with your news and keep up with it, because once you get off the train, it's much harder. Again, I think the meaning here is, even though you were laid off, try to keep yourself on par with your skills, and trying to get the job somewhere. Again, I think that's a little bit more sound advice to a certain degree, because if you then stop doing any kind of developing and maintaining your skills, even though you're not working for your CV in terms of experience, at least you might demonstrate better agility in your professional work field there. But yeah, again, they are always optimistic, these kind of people, about the future, for even people that have just been recently laid off. And these things do recover sometimes a lot faster than you might think, when all very precarious. Again, that's, I underline this because, again, is I think all of this conversation is presuming that people were paid some kind of decent severance package, and by that time, but then he reinforced the stupidity of these people, and by the time that runs out, well, that's life. Again, the market is at a downturn there, and I think in terms of having, to a certain degree, being laid off here and there in some jobs because of expense cuts, my advice is, don't give up. If you're focused on your skills, keep your skills working, and don't give up on finding new opportunities. Even if you need to find it in a different or not the same field that you are, your work experience is more aimed for, something at least to keep you busy in a daily routine. I think it's one of the best things. Even if it is like a part-time thing there, I think it's the best option. But yeah, even if you take, like, I don't know, some freelance job, if you can manage that, use your contact network for that. I think it's the best solution possible given the circumstances. But yeah, then he goes about a little bit on the industry kind of things. He said, I'd be more worried about the cheap programming hours or AI assisted programming hours from poor countries which have the right to compete. India, for example, that they are doing a lot of coding for ERPS software, just not just game software. So, the industry that I always say, what's really exciting about the industry, you never get a chance to be depressed. Again, I don't know what he's talking about. So get over it. Really, that's the excitement of the industry, that shit like this happens. And it's very sad, but it's not going to be forever. And, come on, guys, wake up. This is not the first time. Again, the lack of the empathy that they meant for themselves, it's a little bit off-putting to a certain degree, because to a certain degree, having this kind of I don't know, this kind of personality traits. They're a little bit disconnected from the reality of normal persons. But yeah, this doesn't fare well. Even though I understand a little bit the train of thought of this guy. Yeah, it's again, it's an older guy. I think he's on the retirement now, so he doesn't basically give a fuck about any of us because he already done what he needs to do. He's living off well, so he doesn't give a crap. I think his main concern is providing for his family, and basically that's it. But yeah, I don't want to ramble too much on this, but yeah, not good comments there. Even though I can understand the logic of those comments. They are not the best comments to make, that's for sure, for people that are being laid off, especially when it's not their fault. For example, the shutting down of Tango Gameworks, even Austin, Texas. Sorry, I think it's the second time I say this. It's not Austin, Texas. Is the ones that did the. Oh my god, I completely forgot. There was another one. I completely forgot the name of Arcane Austin, Arcane Austin. I think that's the one. Yeah, they did decent projects lately, especially Tango Game Wars got a break off hit there with the rhythm game base. I always forget names of things, so excuse me for that. And they was completely shut off. They got some recovery there with the acquisition from another publisher. They want to acquire the studio, at least the talent there, from my understand. We still have to figure out what the outcome is about there. But yeah, uh, you got these kind of examples that studios launch good game, they sell well over the expectations that they had for that studio, and they still get shut down. But then you get this kind of the Firewalk Studios that launched Concord, 8 years, 100 and something $1 million to develop that game, and it's a flop. And now they don't know what to do with that studio. Of course, it is going to be shut down. A lot of people are going to be laid off because trying to justify 100 million plus dollars in investment for 8 years for a game that shut down after 15 days, if not much. Yeah, not good. But let's try to end up in a positive note. We got some gaming deals. We got Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, very positive reviewed game all over the place. 80% off. We got Atomic Heart still on deal, 60% basically on all the editions here. And you got a demo if you don't know if this game is for you, which is excellent. Then you got No Man's Sky, again, with the latest Aquarius Expedition update, with all the fishing game mechanics associated with it. It's 60% off. Then you got Citizen Sleeper. This is kind of a dice RPG or CRPG kind of a thing there. Very interesting, this game. Very positive reviews, and it's 60% off. Then you got the Bookwalker. It's kind of a adventure, isometric with, I think, turn-based combat, if not mistaken. Very interesting, the premise, and it's 50% off, so it's very cheap. Then you got also wallworld. Again, this got the stamp of approval for my part. I bought the game. I bought all the extras here because the game is so cheap. Even at full price, it's well worth the price there. I do recommend Deep Threat. Enhances and expands a little bit on the base game there. It's very cheap. Got my stamp of approval. I finished around 40 hours or so. Yeah, it's a fun game there. And then you got also Vampire Survivals again. Got my stamp of approval, already put it around 30 hours or so. I'm still on the beginning of the game to a certain extent. Got a lot of stuff there to go through. I play it here and there now and again. And even at full price, $5, it's more than worth in even all the DLC. If you like the base game, then we will enjoy the DLC. I already experiment with some DLC stuff. Yeah, it's a pretty good game. It's very addicting. It is just one more run thing, and yeah, it's got my stamp of approval. And yeah, basically that's it for today. I'm going to wrap up here with a plug on my Patreon for extra support as usual. The extra support coming from Patreon is for me to, at this moment in time, focus on a better storage solution so I can have backups of the stuff that I do for my clients, and of course, some extra storage for the videos that I do for the channel. And with all that said, I hope you have a wonderful day. I will see you in the next one. So till then, Kunamy Master out.